A kind girl saved a dog in critical condition. When she returned home, the dog did not go into the cage, but slept in the snow. Looking inside, the owner was extremely terrified. The story begins when Grace's family discovered a majestic German Shepherd huddled in an old cardboard box near a grocery store. The dog's ears were pinned back, and her eyes revealed a mix of caution and desperation. Despite her imposing size, large for a German Shepherd, she looked vulnerable, especially as a cold drizzle tapped on the cardboard that offered little shelter. Grace felt an immediate connection to this forlorn animal and pleaded with her parents to take the dog home. When they asked the owner of a nearby shop, they said the dog had been there for days. Sensing the spark of empathy in their daughter's eyes, Sarah and Mike agreed. Before returning home, they heard a story about this dog. It all began when a few neighbors spotted a menacing stray dog prowling the streets. The dog, known for its aggressive nature, cornered a puppy in an alley. Most adult dogs might keep their distance to avoid conflict, but was no ordinary dog. Courage and maternal instinct surged within her. She dashed into the alleyway, maneuvering herself between the aggressive dog and the helpless puppies. A brief, tense standoff ensued as growls echoed across the narrow walls. Eventually, her determined stance and threatening bark drove the stray animal away. With the danger gone, she gently nudged the trembling pups, her muzzle offering a reassuring touch. The whole Grace family was surprised after hearing this. When coming home, they named her Lucy, and from that moment, she was no longer nameless or homeless. She was cared for in a warm home equipped with warm blankets, clean water, and lots of love. For the first few days in her new home, Lucy remained timid. She spent most of her time tucked under Grace's bed, her bright eyes tracking the family's movements warily. If anyone approached too quickly, she would retreat farther into the shadows, trembling with residual fear from her past experiences. Despite her apprehension, Lucy never showed outright aggression, only caution. Grace understood that building trust took time. Every evening the young girl would lie on the floor, whispering soothing words, sometimes reading storybooks aloud so Lucy could grow accustomed to her gentle voice. Over time, Lucy ventured out from her hiding spot to rest her head on Grace's knee, forming a delicate bond that would grow stronger with each passing day. Love and patience act as soothing medicine, gradually healing her wounded spirit. After a while, once Lucy felt safe enough to explore, the family began to notice the dog's astonishing intelligence. It started innocuously. Lucy would nose at the doorknob, causing it to click open just enough for her to push through. Sarah and Mike, perplexed, tested her further by watching how she dealt with light switches. To their amazement, Lucy learned to flick them on and off with her muzzle. Grace, who was often in a hurry for school, experienced the full benefit of Lucy's smarts. Lucy would trot to Grace's room each morning, pick up the child's backpack by the strap, and carry it carefully to the front door. At first, this was met with giggles and surprise. Soon, it became part of the morning routine. This level of ingenuity only cemented Lucy's status as an exceptional dog and an integral member of the family. The following days, a gentle dawn light now sweeps across the quiet suburban neighborhood, illuminating a well-kept yard where Lucy stands poised. Her coat, a rich tapestry of black and tan fur that gleams under the sun's rays, hints at her excellent health and robust lineage. But beyond her imposing physical presence lies something even more compelling. Lucy's extraordinary maternal instinct and her capacity for unwavering bravery. From the moment she arrived in this family's life, stories have circulated about her acts of kindness and her knack for protecting the vulnerable. Whether it's a neighbor child in need of friendly play or a stray animal looking for help, she almost understood their wishes. One autumn day, dark clouds gathered, the sky began to darken, A sharp wind rattled the windows and rain lashed the neighborhood. As the storm reached its peak, a nest of baby squirrels was dislodged from a lofty branch in the oak tree by the Grace's fence. Grace, standing by the window, watched the helpless creatures tumble onto the wet grass. Without hesitation, Lucy dashed into the torrential rain. She sniffed out each tiny squirrel, nudging them gently to confirm they were still breathing, and carried them one by one onto the covered porch. Sarah rushed outside with towels, her heart pounding from a mix of worry and admiration. Once the baby squirrels were placed safely in a makeshift box lined with blankets, Lucy refused to leave their side. Her calm presence seemed to offer the fragile creatures a sense of security. By morning, the mother squirrel returned, collecting her little ones. This selfless act solidified Lucy's reputation as a guardian to all creatures great and small. However, moments of heroism soon gave way to puzzling behavior. Grace observed Lucy sitting by the large picture window for hours, gazing outside with a subdued look. She ate less, and her once energetic demeanor seemed muted. Concerned, Sarah and Grace took Lucy to the veterinarian, who performed an examination and an ultrasound that confirmed a life-changing fact. Lucy was pregnant. Sarah and Mike exchanged a series of reactions, from joy at the prospect of puppies to nervousness about how to care for them. Grace was ecstatic, immediately brainstorming names for each new pup. The entire household buzzed with excitement, diving into preparations, from setting up a warm nesting area to stocking up on puppy-friendly supplies. Yet, fate had other plans. The day Lucy went into labor dawned cold and overcast. She chose an old wooden shed in the backyard as her birthing spot, pacing anxiously around inside. But Lucy still moaned softly whenever someone came too close. Eventually, the family retreated to the house, offering Lucy the privacy she seemed to crave. Hours later, Lucy emerged, exhausted and moving slowly. When Mike looked inside the shed to check on the puppies, he discovered them lying motionless. They had been stillborn. It was a crushing blow for the family, and Lucy's anguished whimpers echoed the heartbreak shared by them all. The dream of tiny, vibrant pups scurrying around the house vanished in a single devastating moment. In the days that followed, Lucy's sadness was palpable. She refused her favorite snacks, ignored Grace's attempts to play, and spent an increasing amount of time staring listlessly out the window. Occasionally, she would wander back to the shed, sniffing the corner where she had delivered her stillborn puppies. The once lively German Shepherd seemed weighed down by grief, her spirit as cold as the swiftly approaching winter. Grace, shaken by Lucy's sadness, tried everything: singing, offering new toys, and even placing a soft teddy bear near Lucy's favorite resting spot. Nothing seemed to lift the dog's gloom. Sarah and Mike consulted the veterinarian again, seeking advice on how to help Lucy cope with her sorrow. The vet recommended patience, gentle affection, reminding them that, for all her intelligence, Lucy was still a vulnerable creature with deep emotional capacity. A few weeks later, the first snow of winter dusted the neighborhood. Grace bundled up in her coat and boots, glancing outside to see if Lucy was still moping indoors. To her surprise, Lucy wasn't on her usual blanket beside the living room window. Instead, she was lying on the porch of an old kennel that had been set up for outside use. The kennel itself was empty, but Lucy refused to go inside it. She lay directly on the porch floor, her ears perked, as if standing guard despite the frigid temperatures. Concerned for the dog's well-being, Grace stepped outside. The crisp winter air stung her cheeks. She called to Lucy, expecting the German Shepherd to come running back into the warmth of the house, but Lucy remained resolute, her gaze locked onto the kennel's entrance, as though there was something inside that demanded her protection. Worried by Lucy's unusual behavior, Grace tried to approach the kennel. The moment she got close, however, Lucy stood up, blocking the entrance. A low, warning growl emitted from Lucy's throat. Not aggressive, but a clear message. This reaction startled Grace. Lucy had never growled at her with such intensity. The dog's eyes flickered with a protective instinct that Grace recognized from the old stories about Lucy's heroic rescue of abandoned puppies. Grace retreated a step, lifting her hands in a pacifying gesture. "It's okay, Lucy," she whispered, her breath fogging in the cold air. "I'm not going to hurt you. I just want to see what's going on." Lucy stopped growling, but remained firmly planted in front of the kennel. Not wanting to upset Lucy further, Grace tried a gentler approach. She knelt down in the snow, allowing Lucy to sniff her gloved hand. Gradually, Lucy's stance softened, and she nuzzled into Grace's palm, seeking a moment of reassurance. Grace seized this chance to pet Lucy's ears and scratch her neck, hoping the closeness might encourage Lucy to let her peek inside the kennel. Yet, the second Grace shifted her weight and leaned toward the kennel door, Lucy pivoted back, once more blocking the entrance. Confusion mingled with concern in Grace's mind. She sensed that whatever Lucy was guarding, it was deeply important to the dog. Ultimately, Grace decided not to force the issue. She patted Lucy's flank gently and stood up, her eyes lingering on the kennel. Something told her this was more than just a random fixation. Early the next morning, Grace awoke to find frost coating the windows. She immediately checked the back porch. Sure enough, Lucy was still in the same position, standing watch by the kennel. Determined to finally solve the mystery, Grace slipped on her coat and braved the chilly air once again. The scene repeated itself. Lucy rose to her feet, stiffening her legs and letting out a faint growl as soon as Grace ventured too close. Undeterred, Grace said softly, "Hey, girl, you can trust me." But Lucy merely gazed at her with large, imploring eyes. The strategy is simple. Lure Lucy out of the cage with a tasty treat, then quickly investigate what's inside. Realizing that a direct confrontation was futile, Grace walked into the kitchen and rummaged through the refrigerator until she found a prime steak. She painstakingly sliced it into bite-sized cubes, the succulent aroma filling the room. Next, she heated them gently to enhance the scent, carefully placing them in a shiny bowl. The strategy was simple. Lure Lucy away from the kennel with the promise of a delicious meal, then quickly investigate whatever was inside. With the bowl in hand, Grace headed outside. As soon as Lucy caught a whiff of the steak, her ears perked up and her tail flicked in curiosity. Grace knelt down, allowing Lucy to take in the smell more directly. Overcoming her wariness, Lucy stepped forward, sniffing the bowl, her eyes bright with excitement. Grace rose, bowl in hand, and walked back toward the house. She called for Lucy, who hesitated, glancing back at the kennel and letting out a soft whimper. Torn between her duty to guard and her love for steak, Lucy hesitantly followed Grace inside the warm kitchen. The moment Lucy's paws crossed the threshold, Grace quickly shut the kitchen door. Lucy barked in protest, sensing she'd been outmaneuvered, but the distraction had worked. Grace took a second to steady her nerves. The time had come to discover the secret Lucy guarded. Bracing herself against the wintry chill, Grace crossed the yard. Each step felt heavier under Lucy's frantic barking echoing from the house. Guilt tugged at her heart. She hated locking Lucy away, especially when their bond had been built on trust. But her need to ensure Lucy was safe and to understand her behavior outweighed the pangs of conscience. When she finally reached the kennel, the morning light revealed small paw prints in the snow leading in and out. Grace slowly bent down, her hands trembling from both anticipation and the cold. She peered through the kennel's opening, taking a moment for her eyes to adjust to the dim interior. Much to Grace's astonishment, a mother raccoon lay curled in one corner. The raccoon's fur was slightly disheveled, and her eyes were fixed on the entrance, reflecting a blend of caution and defiance. Grace's mind raced. Under normal circumstances, a raccoon might have bolted upon seeing a human, but this one stood her ground, a silent statement that she, too, was protecting something precious. Grace's breath caught in her throat. She had expected maybe a small animal or a stray cat, certainly not a wild raccoon. Now the pieces began to come together. Lucy, with her innately protective nature, had seemingly chosen to defend this mother raccoon. But why? Slowly, Grace shifted her gaze and saw the answer. Nestled against the raccoon's belly were 6 tiny kits, huddled close to their mother for warmth. Their small bodies quivered with each breath, and soft squeaks filled the kennel in the hush of the morning air. The mother raccoon gave a warning hiss, but did not attack. Instead, she adjusted her position to shield her babies from Grace's view. In a flash, Grace realized what Lucy had done. After losing her own litter, Lucy's maternal instincts remained unextinguished. She must have stumbled upon this mother raccoon, possibly in distress or about to give birth, and offered the warmth of her own kennel, an act of empathy transcending species boundaries. Lucy, grieving yet still overflowing with a need to nurture, had sacrificed her comfort to shelter this family against the bitter winter. The raccoon, perhaps sensing Lucy's peaceful intent, accepted the dog's guardianship. Grace couldn't hold back her tears. She recalled Lucy's heartbreak after the stillborn puppies and how the dog had sunk into a silent depression. Now, Lucy had found another chance to mother helpless creatures, even if they weren't of her own kind. The 2 mothers, one canine, one raccoon, had formed a quiet alliance. Lucy guarded the kennel's entrance, while the raccoon nursed her babies. Grace gently backed away, not wanting to startle the raccoon further. She could almost picture Lucy's anxious face pressed against the kitchen window. At that moment, Grace felt a surge of admiration for her loyal German shepherd. This was a dog who, despite her own pain, reached out to protect lives that others might dismiss or fear, determined to honor Lucy's compassion. Grace then explained everything to Sarah and Mike. They reacted with equal parts surprise and pride in their dog's behavior. Together, the family decided to build a separate enclosure for the raccoon family near the kennel, complete with straw mulch and a heat lamp to keep warm. They reasoned that once the mother raccoon felt secure, she could move her kits to the new space, allowing Lucy to reclaim her kennel without disturbing the raccoon's safe haven. Over the next couple of days, they carefully placed food and water near the new enclosure, ensuring the mother raccoon had enough sustenance to nurse her babies through the harsh winter. Once the new shelter was ready, the mother raccoon tentatively investigated it, sniffing at the straw and nudging her babies. Lucy watched from a respectful distance, never intruding, but always vigilant. It took a few nights, but eventually the raccoon family settled comfortably into their new domain. Lucy, sensing their safety, returned to her kennel, though she would regularly wander over to check on the raccoons, sometimes just sitting nearby, ears perked. Grace observed that Lucy's demeanor visibly brightened. Gone was the haunted look in her eyes. She wagged her tail more often, trotted around the yard with a renewed spring in her step, and even rejoined Grace in play, chasing a rubber ball or tugging a rope toy. It was as though by helping the raccoons, Lucy had found a pathway to healing her own emotional wounds. The harsh winter has given way to a warm, sunny season. The 6 kits are now older, their eyes open and full of curiosity about the world. The mother raccoon no longer bristles in Lucy's presence. Instead, a sense of peace has settled over the entire yard. Have you ever witnessed animals of different species caring for one another? In a world filled with challenges, perhaps it is these quiet acts of kindness that show us how we can all come together, Lucy, the German Shepherd, taught us that love knows no bounds, across loss, across species, and across fear. The story of Lucy underscores that no matter our differences, compassion has the power to heal, unite, and protect life's most vulnerable. Please share your thoughts, and if this story touches your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it to spread the message that kindness and compassion have the power to heal.